over $2.5 million. Gone in 20 minutes. No shots fired, no alarms triggered, no witnesses who could identify a single face. January 17th, 1950, Boston, Massachusetts. 7 men walked into one of the most fortified buildings in the country, and walked right back out. The FBI would call it the most embarrassing unsolved crime in American history. The press called it the perfect crime. It nearly was. But how do you plan a robbery to be so perfect that even a single alarm wasn't triggered? We will need to go 3 years back to understand.
Codex.
Boston, 1947. The city is still finding its footing after the Second World War. Banks are flush. Payrolls are moving. And Brink's Incorporated, the most trusted name in armored transport, is sitting on mountains of cash every single night. 11 men saw an opportunity. Not impulsive criminals, not desperate amateurs. These were calculated, patient, professional thieves, and at the center of it all was a man named Anthony Pino. But who is this genius? Pino was a Boston underworld figure who had spent years studying one simple question. What is the biggest score available in this city? His answer, every time, was the same. Brink's. By 1948, Pino had assembled his crew, 11 men in total, each with a specific role. Among them, Joseph McGinnis, believed by many to be the true mastermind. Joseph O'Keefe, a seasoned burglar who would prove to be both the operation's greatest asset and its ultimate undoing. And Stanley Gusciora, O'Keefe's closest ally in the group. The stakes were enormous, not just the money, though $2.775 million in 1950 was a generational fortune, which will be around $38 million in today's money. The stakes were freedom, reputation, legacy. These men weren't planning a robbery, they were planning a myth. The planning alone took nearly 3 years. First, they needed to understand the building's security. So O'Keefe and Gusciora did something almost unthinkable. They broke into the offices of the Boston Alarm Company that serviced Brink's. They photographed the security blueprints. Then, just as silently, they put them back. The alarm company never knew they'd been there. But the documents told them what they already feared. There was no easy way around the alarm system, so they changed their approach entirely. For months, members of the crew took positions on rooftops along Prince Street and Snow Hill Street, binoculars in hand, watching, counting guards, timing shift changes, identifying the precise window when the vault would be open and the fewest number of employees would be inside. Their conclusion, just after 7 p.m. Over a period of several months, the crew physically removed each lock from the Brink's building, had a key cut for it, and returned the original lock, undamaged, undetected. By the time they were done, they had a key to every door in the building. They rehearsed the entry. They stole 2 vehicles, a green 1949 Ford stake body truck to carry the cash, and a second car to block any pursuit. They designed their disguises: chauffeur caps, pea coats, rubber-soled shoes to silence their footsteps, and rubber Halloween masks modeled after Captain Marvel, so no employee could ever describe a face. They attempted the robbery 5 times. 5 times something wasn't right. Costa, their rooftop lookout, called it off. The discipline it took to walk away 5 times when millions of dollars were within reach speaks to just how seriously these men took the operation. On the night of January 17, 1950, Costa finally gave the signal. At 7:10 p.m., 7 men entered the Brink's building using their copied keys. O'Keefe, Gusciora, Baker, Maffei, Geoghegan, Faherty, Richardson. Pino and McGinnis waited in the getaway car outside. Inside, 5 employees were working in the vault area. Within moments, they were tied up, their mouths taped shut. None of the robbers said more than was necessary. Then, a buzzer. Someone at the outer door wanted to be let in. 2 of the crew moved toward the entrance, ready to intercept. But the man, a garage attendant, completely unaware of what was happening inside, simply walked away. The crew spent 20 minutes loading canvas bags with cash, checks, money orders, and securities. 14 bags in total. The combined weight exceeded half a ton. They left behind nearly $1 million in silver and coins, too heavy to carry. At 7:30 p.m., they walked out. By 7:37, one of the bound employees had freed himself and triggered the alarm. The crew had a 7-minute head start and had left almost nothing behind. The FBI descended on Boston almost immediately. J. Edgar Hoover himself took personal supervision of the investigation. Commissioner Sullivan issued a citywide mobilization order within hours. 13 suspects were detained that same night, including 2 former Brink's employees. The evidence at the scene was almost nothing: a single cap, some rope, and tape. 4 revolvers taken from the guards. Most of the stolen cash was in small denominations, 1s and 5s and 20s, making serial number tracking nearly impossible. For months, then years, the investigation stalled. In June 1950, O'Keefe and Gusciora were arrested in Pennsylvania, not for Brink's, but for an unrelated burglary. O'Keefe got 3 years. Gusciora got 5 to 20. From behind bars, both men demanded money from Pino and McGinnis to fund their legal defense. The gang obliged, but barely. When O'Keefe was eventually released, he discovered something that would set everything in motion. His share of the Brink's money, which he had left with Maffei for safekeeping, was gone. He had risked everything and received nothing. Furious and broke, O'Keefe kidnapped Vincent Costa, one of his own crew, and demanded his cut as ransom. Pino paid a token amount, then made a decision that would destroy them all. He hired a hitman, Elmer Trigger Burke, one of the most feared contract killers in the American underworld, traveled to Boston with one job: kill Joseph O'Keefe. Burke found him, shot him, left him for dead. O'Keefe survived. The FBI visited him in the hospital, and on January 6, 1956, nearly 6 years after the robbery, Joseph O'Keefe decided to talk. On January 12, 1956, just 5 days before the statute of limitations would have permanently closed the case, the FBI arrested 6 members of the gang: Baker, Costa, Geoghegan, Maffei, McGinnis, and Pino. Faherty and Richardson were apprehended 4 months later in Dorchester. The trial began on August 6, 1956. 8 men received the maximum sentence: life imprisonment. Stanley Gusciora died of a brain tumor in July 1956, before he could be tried. Joseph Banfield had died the year before. O'Keefe, the man who broke the silence, received 4 years and was released in 1960. Most of the others were paroled by 1969. Joseph McGinnis, considered by many to be the true architect of the heist, died in prison in 1966. Of the $2.775 million stolen that night, only $58,000 was ever recovered. That's roughly $600,000 in today's money. The rest, to this day, has never been found. Here's what the Brink's robbery really teaches us. The crime itself was nearly flawless. 3 years of planning, meticulous surveillance, not a single shot fired, not a single face seen. The FBI, the most powerful investigative force in the world, spent 6 years and could not crack it through conventional means. What broke it was not forensics, not a witness, not a mistake made inside that building on January 17th, 1950. What broke it was greed, betrayal, and the very human inability of men to honor an agreement when millions of dollars are at stake. Joseph O'Keefe didn't talk because he feared the law. He talked because the men he had trusted with his life, his own crew, had tried to have him killed. The perfect crime was never undone by the police. It was undone by the criminals themselves.